Right, let's talk more about this issue. We can speak to migration policy expert Zoe Gardner. Thanks for coming on the programme. So this issue of housing and the right and appropriate accommodation for people has been a really thorny and difficult issue over the last couple of months especially.
Yes, it absolutely has. And we need to remember that this is a decision made by this government in 2020 as a COVID safety measure to move people out of the ordinary asylum accommodation that had been used up until then and into hotels. And it's a deliberate political choice to continue to house people in hotels. Everybody who works with refugees and knows about their needs and their welfare has been asking the government to move people out of hotels. It's completely inappropriate form of accommodation for them. And now it's become a target for organized far-right violent thuggery like this awful scenes that we saw last night. I mean, you have to imagine how terrified the men, women and children in that hotel who have escaped, in many cases, situations of war and violence and persecution must have felt. It's absolutely unacceptable. This kind of behaviour is justified by rhetoric that comes right from the top of our government. And I really hope that they'll take this moment to take stock of what has happened, what this hostile rhetoric and hostile policy making has led to, and to change tack completely.
OK, well, we don't have anyone from the government to put their point of view right now, and I'm sure they would distance themselves from any such link between them and any far-right movements. I want to go back to what you said about the difference in the type of accommodation. You said previously they were housed in a different way. Just flesh that out a bit.
So asylum seekers have traditionally been housed in pretty low quality accommodation. It's been a problem for a long time, but at least they were dispersed around the country into communities and housed in flats and accommodation of that kind. Now, what has happened on top of the move into hotels in the last few years is that the rate of making decisions on asylum claims has slowed right down. So currently in the UK, we make about as many decisions in the space of a year as a country like France or Germany makes in about a month. So what that has meant is that more and more people are stuck for really, really long periods in this sort of initial supposedly temporary asylum accommodation, which is now being used. Hotels are being used for that purpose. So it's a combination.
One possible solution, as far as you can see, is actually more resources, more money to speed up that process.
Yeah, but it would be a transfer of resources, really. So it costs us far, far more to house people in these hotels for the long term, where they're not allowed to work, they're not allowed to study, they're not allowed to start integrating and rebuilding their lives in safety in our communities. So it would be a money-saving scheme, actually, to transfer those resources into faster and better quality decision-making within the asylum system, a functioning system. People can just get through that process and not end up trapped in this awful limbo situation where they're at risk from these gangs. And you know, further money is being wasted on, you know, we paid £120 million for what essentially turned out to be a press release with the Rwandan government saying that they would take on asylum seekers. We're wasting millions and millions in repeated deals with the French to build another fence or patrol another beach. These have been failed policies. I don't know how many millions and billions of pounds we've poured into them over the last decades, but again and again and again, we build another fence, we pay for another patrol, and the numbers of people coming don't change, because ultimately people will always seek safety in the UK. So what we need to do is change where we're putting those resources so that it's a system that functions for everybody.
OK, we greatly appreciate your analysis and your thoughts. Zoe Gardner, thank you very much for coming on the programme. Thank you.